do you think that electing to field first, which on a wicket which looked very good for batting, was a mistake, or was it influenced by many other factors?
I guess you can look in hindsight, but I think it was a pretty good wicket throughout. There wasn't much for, I guess, the bowlers. No, the cutters weren't really holding, not much spin. So I think either way you look at it, I think if we could have got a couple on the power play, squeeze them a little bit through the middle, 220 could have been chased down on a very good wicket. So. But I think, credit to Sanju and Abhishek at the top, to get 90, I think, off the power play. It's pretty tough from there.
Mitch, what was the plan in the power play? Because it seemed like your focus was going wide and hiding the ball out of the hitter's reach. What was the plan that you guys fixed for the power play? Because you mentioned playing against India, not losing the power play was really huge in the pre-match.
Yeah, I think, there wasn't a lot of, I guess, seam or swing to start. So I think it's, the bowlers trying to do what they can to get out of the hitting arc. We know how good both Sanju, Abhishek, Kishan are at hitting, all over the wicket. So, I think whichever way you look at it, there's no perfect plan when guys are going. I think, it is hard to stop when guys are going like that. So, whether it was a few more Yorkers or closing out balls, I think we tried the wide stuff, and then we tried the two on the leg side, so we tried everything. But yeah, I think credit has to go to the way they set that power play up, and then from there you can go pretty hard and to get a good score like they did.
Mitch, second over of the inning, Glenn Phillips bowled a decent over and gave only 5 runs. Why he was not given the ball again?
I think the way they played the over, Abhishek I thought played that very smart. I know at times he comes a little bit hard at the off spinner, but he gave it over to Sanju, and then I think the first kind of 3 overs is when the ball is doing its most, and then I think you can really capitalise on the last 3 of the power play like they did. So. It was always going to be hard. I think if Sanju got out, definitely would have been another option for GP to bowl to the 2 left-handers. But when you're not taking wickets, it's always a challenge.
Mitch, hard luck. You have just said it was like you tried everything out there. You've played a lot of T20 cricket. How good a team do you think you've just lost a final to?
Yeah, a very good team. I think they know how to play in these conditions. They play on a lot of flat wickets against quality sides, and they showed that again today. That once they're going, it's pretty tough to stop. So I think for us it was, whether it was being braver with Yorkers or bouncers, I think we tried a lot of the cutters into the wicket that, on wickets that aren't offering much, they just kind of go as well. So I think, they did knock it around at times, and I think when we did, use the slower bounces, the Yorkers, for that little phase in the middle, we were able to slow them down. But I think, again, the damage was done, and then, Dubé come in at the end and hitting, they're all striking it pretty well at the moment. So I think, 230, we could have taken 230 on a pretty good wicket.
Yeah. Mitch, hi. Just wanted to know about the selection of the 11. Throughout this tournament, we have seen that most of the teams attack India with spin, and they have struggled against spinners. You have the option of playing Cole, but you decided to go ahead with Jacob. So can you please talk about this particular selection?
Yeah, it was a tough one. I mean, we saw at Kolkata, I think the matchup again was, off spin to their top 3. Ahmedabad, the wicket, the mixed soil, usually is no spin. There's always a little bit of bounce, and I think bowling my overs, XRs and Chakravartis, there was no real spin at any stage. So I think, which way you go, I think, there was potentially a bit of bounce for the seamers, but I think at the end of the day, it's an execution, whoever is bowling. I think when you bowl, nice areas for a period of time, you could, get in out of overs. I think that was the main thing. It wasn't trying to get wickets at times. It was, how you be defensive to be attacking. And I think when we did that well, we were able to squeeze, I think, a period of 4 overs, and they lost 4 wickets. But outside of that, it was a few runs.
Mitch, you've been part of a few finals losses, especially after you've screamed through a semi-final. You must be getting pretty sick of the feeling.
Yeah, I guess it's not ideal losing semis and finals, but like I said the other day, you get to this situation, you're coming up against teams that are also playing very good cricket. India in a final in India is always going to be a challenge. We knew that. Definitely underdogs going into the game, and they showed their class again tonight. With that batting performance, and then everything kind of has to go well when you're chasing 250, and losing wickets in the power play is always a challenge. I think that was the tale of the day, was the 2 power plays. I think we were 3 for 40 odd, and they were 90 odd for none.
Hi Mitch, you played against India in the bilaterals, where Sanju was a total disaster, just about 45 runs or 46, and here he scored about 90 runs. So what did you make of him? What amendments he made to his batting, or where did he go right and where did he go wrong earlier?
Yeah, I guess unfortunate for us that he was saving all his runs for the World Cup. I think, in a few of those games he looked like he was trying to hit from ball 1, and then I think tonight, even the other night, he gave himself a chance, gave himself a few balls, and then, I think on these wickets when you're in, you can really cash in, and I think Abhishek was the same. He patted back a little bit of spin at the start, and then, they said once they're both ready and faced a few balls, they were ready to go, and they did go. So I think, I think that was the play for us, was trying to see if we could bowl full and get, early poles, but we obviously didn't tonight.
Hi Mitch. So you said that your bowlers could have been braver with their Yorkers and bouncers, and obviously your batting innings, chasing a massive total, didn't go fantastically. Have you let yourselves down tonight, and if so, why do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you always have, when you come up against a very good team in a final, you always, want to do well. And I think we all know that we weren't at our best tonight. And if you aren't at your best against a very good team, you're going to be exposed. And that's kind of what we were tonight. So I think, we probably look at some options with the ball and with the bat, and can reflect on that again. You have to be going pretty well against India in a final. I think, some of the options with the ball at the start, we could have potentially done things a little bit different, but I think when 2 guys are going in the power play, I guess our innings against South Africa as well, it's pretty tough to stop guys when they're going. So whatever that looks like, we'll reflect on that, going forward, coming up against, teams on very flat wickets. What does it look like? It might be a little bit different, and then I guess with the bat, I guess you're not going to win a chase in the power play, but you're going to lose one. But I guess 250 tonight was always going to be a tough score.
Mitch, before the final, you put out a sweet little note on Twitter, even apologizing to your people back home for playing on a Sunday, and also asking them to wake up early in the morning to support you and watch the final. Having come so close, and finishing as yet another finalist, what message do you have for your people back home?
Yeah, I guess it's thanks to the fans back home for following us. I might have to go to work obviously without a trophy today, but we obviously get great support back home, and we get great support here as well. And it was awesome to play in front of so many people tonight. Obviously they had a few blue shirts on, not many black shirts, but again it's always a great occasion, and it's always cool for us to play in front of so many people. So it wasn't our greatest effort tonight. Came up against a very good team. I think just thanking the fans back home.